Private, don't dawdle. This world is going to hell, and we aren't gonna sit around and let that happen. Am I clear? Now you march yourself down to patreon.com/evacstation. For less than the cost of covering up a horrible Nazi science lab, you can support this show. It'll help with the hosting costs and improvising the show. And also improving the show, because I can't read, apparently. Do I have to repeat myself, soldier? That's patreon.com/evacsation. Now, let's punch some Nazis.
You're all gonna die screaming. All we wanna do is eat the brains. We're not unreasonable. I mean, no one's gonna eat your eyes. All we wanna do is eat the brains.
The clock has struck midnight, and you know what that means. It's terror time again, and we'll be running this podcast all through the night from a terrifying sight. And I've been writing since we got stationed. Hope I have a long life ahead of me to finish up my stories. Welcome to the After Credits cast. I am your host, Aaron Waffner, and with me today I've got Rosenfeld Metters.
Good evening.
For those who are just joining us, you can follow us down below at the various platforms of choice. That includes all the links down below, including Patreon, YouTube, Peepa, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, and Podcast Addict. We also are on various social medias, wherever you want to find us. It's Twitter, Tumblr, and Facebook. Leave us likes, leave us 5-star reviews and whatnot if you can. The more people give us positive ratings, the more we get viewed from people who don't know us already, which is good stuff. And if you're also just joining us and have not heard us before, you can also email us directly with your questions, comments, concerns, and why you want to punch a Nazi today. Ryan, what is that email?
That email is lovable German kids who love baseball at... Excuse me. Sorry. That's evacstation@gmail.com.
Yeah, it's just weird when it's weird to me when people outside of America like baseball, because I'm an American and I don't even like baseball.
You know, I mean, like it's not a bad sport, for real. It's not a bad sport. It's distinctly American. And I mean, like, when you grow up outside of America and you have like America encapsulated in one sport, like baseball or football or American football,
basketball's another one,
or basketball, yeah, like it's fair, and there is a degree of skill to the game, so I won't knock it too hard.
I get you, but here's my thing, Ryan.
It's boring as hell to watch.
I know it's the most boring sport in the world. Here's the thing. People obsess about baseball here like crazy, and I don't get it. It has nowhere near the elegance or the skill that you see in something like kendo or archery or any martial arts. Like, those are all so much more interesting to me. And it's pushing the individual to their limits. It's awesome stuff.
But it encourages teamwork and the American dream. I mean, excuse me. It's man, I don't know. I don't fucking know. It's a team sport. That's all. Like that's the one big thing I could say it has going for it. It puts the emphasis on working together as a group rather than the individual.
Maybe. I still think that I prefer the trials and tribulations of the individual, but this is a whole...
Oh, by all means. No, I completely agree with you. I'm trying to play devil's advocate for this.
The devil! I see him. He's right there.
He's right there. His face is half blown off. Anyway.
Let's get to this week's What You Watching. That's a weird tangent we took. So yeah, Ryan, what you been watching this week?
It was my lovely girlfriend's birthday a couple days ago, and we opted to watch one of these movies that we have both been really, really interested in, and she got to see it before I did, but I hadn't made the time for it, and it kind of fell off my radar. And I figured, since I was watching one J.J. Abrams film, why not go ahead and watch another J.J. Abrams
Just watch them all.
Yeah, so we opted to stick with the scary theme, and we saw Brightburn. Have you seen this movie?
I've heard about it, and it sounds interesting. It's like evil Superman, basically, right?
Yes, it's essentially what would happen if Superman just went evil as a child. Just like kind of a dark spin on his origin story, and I had a hard time like really grokking the fact where it's just like it's a spin on the Superman origin story, but it's a horror movie. Let me tell you, it is a fucking horror movie. Like it gets bad. It gets like there it isn't like gore all throughout the movie, but the moments where like graphic shit happens, it's like deep. It's real deep. It's just like it's really really good. It's a very interesting thought experiment into sociopathy. So you should definitely take a look at it. It's really really good. I had a fun time with it.
I would want to check it out, especially because it's got James Gunn at the helm, and I love anything he's been doing. So
Yes. Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
So I'm going to do my week real quick, but before I do, I just want to say we're going to do a special episode, or at least I have it scheduled to try to do a special episode to celebrate. But Ryan, technically, this is our 100th podcast of this series.
Get out of here! Oh my god, man, we've been doing this for a hot second, haven't we?
Indeed. This would not be the movie I'd pick for the 100th episode. It just happened to land on this one, but hey, you know what? This is good stuff. For those who are listening, you might get a Patreon exclusive 100 episode where we just kind of talk some shit about random stuff and whatnot. But yeah, no, this was a 100th episode of our regular stuff. And I just want to say thanks to anyone who's been sticking around this whole time. It means a lot to have you all here with us.
Mm-hmm.
As for my week, the listeners who have been here for some of these last 100 episodes will no doubt know that I started up a couple things recently during this season, actually. And I finished them up this week, actually. Well, one last week, one this week, but my schedule was full of all the other stuff I was doing for previous What You Watchins. First, Ryan, I finished the manga Food Wars.
Oh, how was that?
So, the last arc was weird. It brings in a new villain who kind of feels like just evil version of main character, and I don't really care for him. But also, it ends on a very unsatisfying, like, oh, we're done here, but the battle still goes on. I'm like, oh, wait, what?
Oh, no, I hate that ending! No!
And so I'm like, okay, sure, I guess. I mean, I still love the series, so I got some fun recipes I want to try out of it, but just the ending, just such a downer. It's not as, like, long as Naruto's ending was, but it's still just as deflating.
See, now the big thing that kind of threw me for a loop, like in that kind of vein, was I used to watch the Inuyasha like DVDs, and like this was back in the early days of Netflix where you had to like have them mail DVDs.
Oh, right, I remember those days. Dark
so
times.
I would have them like mail me all the Inuyasha episodes, and when I got to the final disc, and I'm like, wait, how are they going to wrap all of this up in 2 episodes? And the last episode said, hey guys, let's vow to always go after Naraku. And then they walked off into the sunset, and I was like, are you kidding? That's it? That's it? And I was like 12, and I was really pissed off. So I hate when shit like that happens. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Like I said, the journey was still really good. It's just that ending was just like, okay, well, on to the next manga. And I have a new one I started, but I'm saving that for when we get back to Star Wars stuff, because it actually ties in really well to that. The other thing I finished this week, and I'll be very quick, I finished The Last of Us.
Okay.
So
how did you like that ending?
So tying into the zombie theme, obviously, but so the ending's really solid. So the violence of Joel as a character and the journey the two of them go through, it's just very fascinating how this story goes, but it's fueled by this violent character who is trying to do right, but clearly is not in the headspace to do right things. And I'm very curious how the sequel's gonna go, because it definitely leaves you off with that ending of, oh, he lied his fucking dick off, and she probably knows, but she can't call him out without any kind of real proof, so she has to accept it for what it is for now. And I'm like, okay, something has to give here, because you can't just let things go on like this indefinitely.
Well, so it's interesting that you finished it, because Last of Us Part 2 is coming out like in the fall.
Is it coming out this year?
Yeah, it's coming out this year.
Okay, I didn't know if it was this year or next year.
I'm pretty sure.
I'm gonna look up and make sure. I'm not gonna call you out. I just couldn't remember.
I'm pretty sure it's this year, but it'll be interesting because like I'm really glad that you picked up on that specifically because like the first like trailer that you get from like the first teaser trailer that we got for Part 2 was Ellie like grown like older like just about an adult like playing a guitar and a grizzled old Joel like coming up to her and is like, "What are you doing, kid?" And she looks up at him and she says, "I'm going to kill every last one of them." And we're just like, "Oh no! Oh wait, no! She got this from Joel! Oh no, come back! Come back!"
So I'm looking on Google.
Because Joel kills whatever he doesn't like that's standing in front of him. And I love that about my guy. I mean, it's problematic, but god damn it, if you're going to kill his daughter again, he's just not going to let it happen. There's no way. There's absolutely no way.
Well, I wonder what he's going to do when his quote-unquote daughter, in this case Ellie for those who are listening, decides that, you know, he's not going to have a choice in the matter and maybe even like be a threat to him and herself. So, we'll see.
We will see, man. God, look, I've watched The Last of Us movie pretty much, but I still need to sit down and like actually play through it and get that visceral feeling of just like, I'm sorry, you're gonna do what to my daughter? Fuck all of y'all. Oh shit, it's Joel. Wait, no, please.
So I did look it up.
Runs down a military base.
So I did look it up. So at the time of recording, there is no set release date. The rumors are all saying February of 2020.
Okay, that's fair.
So by the time
I was close.
So by the time this comes out, that might change. But if it does change, don't call us out because we're recording in the middle of July. Wait, is it July? Yeah, we're recording in the middle of July, and that could definitely change between now and then. So
yep.
Yeah. So that's been my week. A little bit busy, but looking forward to what I'm going to talk to you about in the next episode. So, with that, let's get this going right now. On the eve of the final episode of this season, Our Little Corpse Party takes us to Overlord, released in 2018. Written by Billy Ray and Mark Smith, and directed by Julius Avery, and produced by J.J. Abrams, which is important. We'll get to that in a little bit. The movie grossed a worldwide total of $41,657,000, which is only a little bit more than what it cost.
It still turned out a profit. That's technically a success.
Technically, yes. Yeah, that's technically correct. The best kind of correct. But you have to factor in also that there's also the marketing budget, which is never included in the production budget. And that's typically just doubling the production budget, so it probably still lost something. But that's what just industry garbage. So who knows if that's the exact number or not? But yeah, it doesn't sound like it was super successful. No one really went to go see this one, which I get it. It didn't have any big names per se, and it came out at I think it came out at a pretty busy time last year. So it's kind of a rough sell for a lot of people, I imagine. The cast does include the fine talents of, I'm going to mispronounce some of these, I guarantee it, Gianni Toffer, Dominic Applewhite, Jacob Anderson, you'll have to correct me on this one, Ryan, Ian de Castecker.
Close enough. You know, you'll recognize him as Fitz from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
John Magaro, Pilu Asbeck, Mathilde, or it might be Mathilde. It's Mathilde Oliver, Wyatt Russell, and Jovan Adepo. I'm pretty sure I mispronounced at least half of those.
The only one that I genuinely recognized was the sergeant, who is Bokeem Woodbine.
See, I don't even know that one. I didn't recognize.
Yeah.
I didn't recognize any of
that was literally the only one that I caught. But I was down. I was like, oh shit! All right.
Well, and I read about it too. A couple of these guys did show up in Game of Thrones, but since I don't follow Game of Thrones,
Oh damn! Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I didn't recognize any of these people. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm jumping head deep into something new here. Awards. This movie did win some awards. This film took 2 Toronto After Dark Film Awards for Best Cinematography. I think I was well earned. And Best Sound Design. Also pretty well earned. Now, I'm going to shoot over to you, Ryan, for some fun facts.
All right, well, just like usual, we do have 3 fun facts for you. One of them is historical in nature. Operation Overlord was the code name for the Allied operation for the Battle of Normandy, which launched the successful invasion of Nazi-occupied Europe. Now, this, alongside with Operation Neptune, would become known as D-Day. Damn,
yeah.
Nice.
Learn something every day. Learn something every day.
Yeah, the more you know. Next, this movie featured more practical effects rather than the standard CGI effects that most movies use. This was done to get a better reaction from the actors involved in the scenes where something gruesome would happen, which was very well earned, because some gruesome shit happens in this movie. Yeah. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, I think practical effects are definitely a good way to go for stuff like this, and they did a great job with it.
Oh yeah, I mean, like, it's harder to act, like from an actor's standpoint, it's harder to give a genuine reaction to just standing next to a green screen and being told, hey, use your imagination, this is happening. Whereas somebody with a really good practical effect walks out and fucking half of his face is hanging off and you're like, oh, fuck, wait, no! That I appreciate that reaction more than just the CGI. The CGI might look better, but I can put myself in the other actor's shoes easier if it's more practical in effect, I find. Right. So we got one more for you guys. The original version of the script was actually written in 2013 by Billy Ray, and it was very different in some parts than the final movie before it was changed over the years, and after another writer, Mark L. Smith, was brought in to polish it. Now, one of the biggest differences included only having Boyce, Ford, and Chloe as the main heroes, as far more focus on the horror and far more focus on the horror elements of the film for those 3 characters. The entire third act and action scenes in the ending were almost completely different than the ones over the film. Example. The 3 main heroes were fighting against even more undead Nazis inside the church and laboratory, and using every weapon they had or had found trying to stop them. At one point, Boyce even throws some grenades at Nazis, but when that doesn't work, he has to use a giant sword to decapitate them. And he uses the flamethrower to burn the last ones up before blowing them away for good. Now, I personally am really glad that they didn't do that.
Oh, yeah?
That would have took it to a level of kind of comic book-ishness, comicness, sure, why not? And I appreciate that the movie opted to ground it in the more horror film genre. Also, I think only having to deal with in the third act, only having to deal with 2 undead abominations, technically 3 because the American took the serum to stand up to the guy, sure. But 2 or 3, the fewer ones the better, because it really drives in the fact that if we can't handle 2 of these guys, holy shit, we can't let this actually be a widely implemented thing for Nazi Germany. I mean, that one line that he drops after Ian's character takes the serum, is given the serum and starts losing his shit in the attic, from the villain is 1,000-year Reich needs 1,000-year soldiers.
Good line.
And I was that's terrifying. I'm like, oh, we can't let this come to light. That's just bad news. We can't let that happen at all. So yeah, I'm glad they stuck with only 2 or 3 of them.
I do kind of wish that the last, scenes had a little more going on, because I feel because, you see all the monsters, I guess all the zombie mutant men running out of their cells at the end. I'm like, I want to see something happen with them, but they blow up before you can even get to that. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's too...
you saw the trouble they were having with the one guy.
I know, Ryan.
They're hard as hell to kill. You can't even, Like, they were double tapping them in the head, and they would still get up after a while. I'm like, oh no, guys.
Ryan, we've had like 5 other movies this month with zombies in them, and like there's
but not
so
unkillable
many.
Zombies.
These guys aren't unkillable; they're just really, really hard. Anyway, let's get some initial thoughts before we get too long, because it's already 20 minutes.
Sorry.
So, to me, this came off a little less gruesome and horrifying than the trailers I'd seen leading up to this movie. I don't remember them super well, but I remember the trailers really definitely painted this as, like, the bloodiest, grossest, like, most intense movie ever. I don't feel like it lived up to that level of hype, but there are some truly well-shot scenes, and I think that the practical effects, like you mentioned earlier, really make up for... and the makeup really do remind us that CGI probably shouldn't be used for everything. Good shit.
Yeah.
Good shit.
I like that. For me personally, I was excited when I heard this movie came out, and then I kind of forgot about it. It kind of fell off my radar. Blame it on the marketing or what have you.
Yeah.
But I very much enjoyed it. It came off to me more like a war movie with some comic book horror thrown into it, as opposed to a pure horror movie. I kind of looked at it through that lens, and in that case, I really liked it. Like it's a good war movie, and the horror aspects are very well done. It more kind of leans into the horrors of war, and then has a couple of elements to really push it over the edge. And I enjoyed that. It was different than what I thought it was going to be, but it was still really enjoyable.
Indeed. Now I have a synopsis for you, Ryan. I have 2 different variations here, so I want your flavor here that you want. Do you want a goofy rhyming synopsis, or do you want a straight face synopsis here?
I can't. I'm just reading the first line, and I have to hear the rhyming one. I need this in my life.
All right. I wrote it because I thought it'd be funny and give it a little.
You
more
shouldn't
spice.
have put this one first. I would have given the other one a fair shake had it come before this one, but I read the first one and was just like, no, this is it. I gotta hear this.
Well, you heard him, folks. Here we go. 'Twas the night before D-Day, and all through the land, American soldiers were taking a stand. We follow Corporal Ford, who, given the choice, would rather pair with anyone but Boyce. Oh, but 2 soldiers won't do. There's Tibbet, Chase, and Dawson, too. After an emergency landing where they all nearly die, they meet a Frenchwoman, Chloe, who might be a spy. She brings them home to a German-controlled town and gives them the scoop on what's going down. Townsfolk are being taken to church, and many don't come back. And it sits beneath the radio tower our heroes are there to attack. Enter Captain Waffner, a big German prick. And after surprise inspection, he tries to whip out his dick.
Oh, God.
But Boyce jumped the kraut while Ford went and knocked his lights out. Given orders to leave the joint, Boyce then left for the rendezvous point. He found himself at the aforementioned church and watched Nazis burning corpses from his perch. Boyce did some poking around and found another from his platoon had made it to the ground. The Germans were doing some ethically questionable experiments, so they left, taking some drugs for later merriment. Upon their return, they formulated a strategy. While Ford sent Chase to grab Waffner, who appeared to be Maggoty. But this deception from the Nazi was quite skilled, as it left Chase shot and killed. Yet Boyce pondered quite the theorem of what would happen should he use the Nazi serum. And like that, Chase was back from the dead, but went mad and needed shot in the head. Utilizing the much-needed distraction, Waffner escaped. Waffner escaped to his defending Nazi faction. Though he did not so easily escape this event, as Ford's grenade turned him into Harvey Dent. Thus he returned to Nazi HQ with a bad complexion, to which he said, "Oh, fuck it, time for my injection."
Oh my God.
And thus our heroes made their way to the base. They split up, with Ford fighting Two-Face. Boyce went to the lab and planted C4, but Waffner threw him and his commander to the floor. For a moment, it felt like they didn't stand a chance, but then Ford took some drugs and was ready to dance. With the German boss beaten, Ford made the ultimate sacrifice, allowing Boyd and company to escape while he set off the device. Buried now is the entire lab of the Nazi regime, hidden away from any other government scheme.
Bravo. Bravissima. Bravissima.
I was very happy with how
love
it
it.
turned out. It was very quick work I had to put that together.
That is fan-fucking-tastic. I love it. Thank you for that, sir.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes you gotta do something different, and I think this one was one of the best ones for it. So, Ryan, with that in mind, what did you think of the movie?
I mean, I still, like, so... It was... Like I said earlier, it presented itself to me more of, like, a war story with comic book horror elements thrown into it, in which case I really, really, really dug it. I liked the attention to detail they paid towards the setting. I really enjoyed seeing the group of American soldiers kind of kind of bristle next to each other, but then ultimately come together. I thought the action was very well done. I thought the effects and the practical effects were really good, particularly. And I know it wasn't. I know this particular wasn't practical, but the first time you see Waffner with a hole like in his face, that was so well done. Especially when you have him smile, like, oh, it was so good.
Oh yeah,
And
I saw that. I'm like, oh wait, this is Dark Knight all over again.
And I love that. I love that as time goes on, you see that healing up, which it lends itself to the fact that the serum is regenerating, but it also allows them license to do more practical shit, so that he could film that really physical fight scene and still be rocking prosthetics, as opposed to rocking a mocap headset and having to computer generate the whole thing. So I really appreciated that choice.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think this movie was fun, and I definitely like the different flavors we got here. Like, we have a bit of World War II, we got a bit of zombie stuff going on, we have a bit of the weird, goofy, pulpy maybe, World War II era sci-fi stuff going on. It all kind of blends itself well together. I don't think it leaves a super huge impression. It's not bad by any means, but I think a lot of the stuff is things I've seen before in other places. Not to the,
It doesn't stand out.
Yeah, not to this nothing's done to this extent, I don't think. But like I said, it kind of gets lumped in with a lot of the other weird sci-fi World War II stuff.
Yeah, it was definitely fun. It was definitely fun to watch. But I would if we were sticking to the regular rating scheme, this would be more middle of the pack. It would be more bronze, because it was fun to watch, but there's nothing that really makes it stand out amongst his peers.
Absolutely. And again, it's not a damnation on this film by any means. We still had fun. It's just one of those things where it's we've seen so many of these films at this point that we start getting ourselves a bit higher standards of what we're looking for. Films like this, they're good, but they just don't meet every level of those standards. It's close though.
It's a thing. Yeah.
So I guess so. Like I said earlier, the box office numbers were not in this film's favor. It did not make a lot of money comparatively to what it cost. So my question to you, Ryan, is this: when this was initially pitched and revealed, and J.J. Abrams' name was attached to it, there were rumors going about that this could be another Cloverfield project, and I guess my question to you is, do you think this movie would have done better had those rumors been true? And furthermore, do you think it would have done even better had they had an A-list actor to help garner more of that attention? Or do you think conceptually it was always going to be where it is now?
I think I think it would have been a hard sell being connected to the Cloverfield universe, because the general universe of that's set up around Cloverfield, there's so sparse information, concrete information regarding what is actually going on there, that they would have had a very hard time connecting, this goop that we found in the ground during World War II is actually connected to this movie that's fucking 50 years in the future. They would have had a really hard time actually pulling that off, with the little amount of information that's actually been given. So I'm glad. It would have felt like an overreach to me personally, and I'm glad they didn't do that. An A-list actor might have garnered some more attention, but at the same time, I feel like the total packaging of it was always meant to kind of be like a very well received movie that's in the middle of the pack. You know, it's a normal movie. It's a fun movie that you can just watch for a night. It's nothing to really write home to mom about, but it's like the premise, the story, just the entire package always felt destined to be like just a bit better than normal, and that's okay because not every movie can be fucking knock them out the park. Not every movie can be Dark Knight or can be Endgame. You know, not every movie can do that.
That's fair. That's fair. To your point on the Cloverfield thing, I do agree. I think it's weird, and this is gonna be a little tangential here, I guess, but I think it's weird how many things they're trying so hard to connect to Cloverfield or back to Cloverfield. It's like, Cloverfield's a good movie. I'm not going to say it's bad by any means. It's not perfect, but it's good. It's really good for what it's trying to do. But I just don't understand why there's so many things they keep trying to make to connect to it. And so this definitely would have been one of those like, oh yeah, this is a little bit too much of a stretch here, guys. Let's tone it down a little bit. So it was probably a good call at the end, but I guarantee that probably would have gotten some more views than it did, just because there's that weird fervor from the fan base. It's like, we want more Cloverfield. I'm sitting here like, why?
I mean, I want more Cloverfield. Like, I definitely agree with them, and I think people's like rabid insistence on connecting everything to Cloverfield really it points to the how well established that fan base is with giving like bare minimum information about it, just enough to keep them hooked. You have established essentially like a cult classic fandom around this movie, around this universe, and every like little breadcrumb that is dropped like garners a bunch of attention. So like I would count that as a victory for the Cloverfield universe, that it's so well developed and so well teased that it's really doing its job in generating the support that it wants. I mean, if you remember 10 Cloverfield Lane, I feel like if I'm saying this right, 10 Cloverfield Lane, like the first trailer for the movie dropped like during the Super Bowl one year, and the movie was coming out in like 2 months. It's just dropped in people's laps. You know what I mean? It wasn't like this huge
was
this
it
huge media windup.
Or was it the Cloverfield Paradox that did that?
One of those two. Yeah. I know both of them dropped with little fanfare, with very little fanfare. But when it dropped, everybody was like, "Oh shit! Wait! What do you mean?" And it was I thought it was very well done. Mm-hmm. Kudos to the marketing team on that shit because they're doing their jobs.
Mm-hmm. So the next question we kind of already talked about, which is, with the original script having more horror and more zombies and whatnot, do you find the end result disappointing, or do you think it was the right amount? I guess I want to focus the question more on the horror aspect than the Nazi zombies. Because, I mean, obviously we already discussed more Nazi zombies would have maybe felt like too much. It would have felt too cartoony, or it would have felt like the stakes weren't quite even with what the objective was. Mm-hmm. But I think I would have definitely been down for more horrific aspects going on. Something to really get some nightmare feel going. I don't know about you, but I definitely would have been down for more visually, stimulating spookiness myself.
Okay, so let's expand on this question a little bit, because we spoke about this before we started recording.
Yes.
But the concept of horror, to me personally, includes it has to include an amount of helplessness, like kind of overwhelming odds. Like literally, there's nothing we can do in the face of this. The only thing we can do is try to survive, and what have you. And this movie feels more like a war story because the central group of protagonists, we feel like they can get shit done. They have a mission other than just survive. They're like, we have to take down that tower. Now we have to take down that tower and destroy this lab because they've got like crazy shit going on over there. Like the odds stacked against them are definitely harrowing. And there's definitely elements of like spooky shit going on. But I never felt like survival was literally the best they could hope for.
Oh, no,
and so it never felt to me like an actual horror piece. What do you think about that?
I do see where you're coming from. So in that same discussion, I'll put my point out there. My horror, like, ideal version of horror is not so much the powerlessness, but more just the idea that you're facing this unknown entity. Because I've always felt like when you're facing the unknown, whether it be a big Cthulhu monster or a big spooky town with, like, horror visions of your, like, deepest fears, there are things that it's not so much that you're powerless against them, but you just don't fully understand what's going on. I think people's lack of understanding of things drives them to do more horrible things and thus plays into their fear a bit more.
Yeah. You always fear what you don't understand, that old adage.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I feel you on that.
And so I think this film definitely had room to, like, jump in with both of those. Like, I think there was still an element of the unknown. You had the mystery of the church, you had the mystery of the Nazis and everything. But here's the problem with that, though, is that this is still a World War II era movie, and 9 times out of 10, your villain is going to be Nazis.
Like, oh, it's Nazis, yeah.
So it's like, it's not really that much of a mystery as to what's going on. Nazis are doing something bad, we gotta stop them. So the unknown aspect is already thrown out the window. So I feel like there had to have been something a little bit more going on to make that really work. So they really should have played more to the powerlessness than that you were shooting at. And I don't feel like that's the case because, again, it's World War II, and we're using soldiers as the thing, as our main POV here. And to give you an example, Ryan, Silent Hill is a series that has had many games in there with different protagonists. You had a writer, you had a dad, you had this little girl, all these different characters who are very powerless in the face of these elder god-like monsters they face. And one game that did not get received very well was a game where you played as a soldier going into Silent Hill. Because he was very capable of fighting all these monsters, and it made everything far less terrifying.
Yep.
So, yeah, I feel like the horror aspects of this film were not played up very well. I would love to have seen what exactly they were shooting for with that original script, just in that lens, because I feel like that could have been more called for here.
But I feel like if the original script had like a last stand at the church against a horde of zombies, where one dude literally picks up a giant sword and starts battling zombies, I'm like, okay, you've lost the horror vibe. I'm sorry. You've lost the horror vibe.
So from that original script,
comics, and it's fun, but it's not horror.
I would say from that original script, stop short of that. Like, do all the other spooky-ass shit, get some really cool, like, Berserk-level imagery in here, have some great stuff with that, but stop short of, like, swords to the zombies and slaying the whole, like, army of Nazi zombies. Like, stop short of that because that's a bit much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hey, don't you reminisce for the good old days when you put Nazi in front of something and you already knew that they were bad? Anyway, what's that next question?
Yeah, so this next question seems pretty on the nose, doesn't it? Why do you think they chose the setting of World War II, and how does this compare to other World War II pieces?
So they can get out of the shoot. Okay. Why did I think they chose the setting for World War II? I mean, I feel like World War II and everything surrounding the Nazi regime and Hitler's Germany, Hitler's version for a master race, like, and all of the historically horrific shit that they got up to, lends itself to this kind of like this extension of belief when it comes to like science fiction. It's like you had Hitler's scientists looking into everything that could give them an edge in the war. I mean, they were talking about a 1,000-year Reich for real. So it's just like, of course, he was looking into a bunch of scientific stuff. He was looking into the occult, any of that shit that might have actually worked. And so it kind of lends itself to the suspension of disbelief, where you can say, yeah, of course, yeah, they found this serum that possibly produced undying soldiers for them. There you go. That's fine. They're doing experiments on that shit. And yes, it's horrific. And yes, it involves them just stealing innocent people in the middle of the night to experiment on them. And yes, it's horrible. And yes, it's okay because they're Nazis and we killed them anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think they could have had another like setting that would have been as widely accepted for this type of experimentation if they wanted to keep it in the real world.
Right.
Like if they wanted to base it on like some crazy alien society, then sure, they could do whatever the fuck they wanted. But if they wanted to really ground it in a reality that we could all kind of sink into, then yeah, this was definitely the setting to do it.
I mean, you could kind of do it in modern day, but I feel like there's a lot more black and white with some of the stuff in modern day that would make that harder to sell versus World War II, where, like you said, Nazi in front of something, it's already a bad guy.
Yep.
But no, I think you hit the nail on the head because for those who are not historically as read as some people, I'm not gonna come off as elitist there, but I've read a lot of.
I'm not, guys.
I've read a lot of the history of World War II. It's a fascinating era for a lot of reasons. And one reason is the various experiments of German scientists. A lot of them, not necessarily all of them, but a lot of them did get passes on jail time and whatnot in exchange for doing work for the American government and whatnot. And a lot of the experiments they did under German regime was very questionable in nature. Just Google Dr. Mengele, and you'll find literally a million things wrong with that man and why that whole thing had to be stopped. But they were attempting to do some quote-unquote great things. Not good, just like great as in scale. Big things that could have revolutionized things had it not been for the fact that you were killing lots of people in the process to do so. Thus, it was not good. So yeah, them being the progenitors to a zombie virus a la Resident Evil style stuff, it makes sense. The only other entity that could get away with this kind of stuff is a big evil corporation like Resident Evil does. So yeah, it makes sense that this would be your first go-to on this kind of thing.
Yeah, I can feel that, definitely.
Which brings me to my second point, Ryan. Do you feel Captain Waffner is a little too cliche? I mean, there's a point where he kidnaps the child and does that evil laugh as he's running away, using the child as a shield.
This is gonna be interesting, because I feel like the level of sinister that he took it to made it not cliche for me personally.
Oh, really?
It was just something about the spin that he himself put on it. Like the very quiet malice and the quiet threatening of the child unless she would give up them panties, or the fucking just like the very his own personal take on the character kind of elevated it for me past just stock evil Nazi lieutenant that was just a big mouth and willing to do whatever the fuck he wanted. I think the malice and the sinister level that he took it to made it his own. So I didn't feel it was super cliche. I felt it was just more like, man, I really hate that fucking guy. Oh, and now he's part zombie. Well, goddamn. All right, that's fine.
Yeah, I got some.
But it was also
Wesker
very
vibes there.
interesting. It was really interesting to see Ford dip to that level, because you could already see that kind of darkness in him, and he was constantly saying, if you want to beat the enemy, you have to get down to their level to beat them. And he was definitely the personification of that. So even when he took the serum, you could see him really kind of getting to that level. And I'm like, I appreciate this metaphor. I do appreciate this metaphor. So yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, I feel like Ryan is reading ahead of my questions here, because the next one I have: what separates the Allied forces from the enemies when the only way to beat a Nazi is to sink to their level?
I don't have access to the script. Of course I don't. I think I think the 2 points of contention for here are, or the points in favor of and against are Foyd. Wow, Foyd.
Ford.
Fuck out of here, Ryan. Ford and Boyce,
Yeah,
because
voice.
yeah, Boyce.
I ship that.
Because Ford, you definitely have that gritty determination to win no matter what the fucking cost, because you feel that your cause is just, and in the end justifies the means. So we are, of course, willing to submit to evil shit in order to be actually evil people. Of course we are. But at the same time, at the other end of the spectrum, you have people like Boyce, Ryan. You have people like Boyce, who really represents that wholesomeness, that good-hearted nature to actually help people and actually do right. I think it's a very interesting commentary on America in general, because I feel like the soul of America is equal parts both of those things. You know, like the determination to do whatever the fuck you want because you know that you're right at the end of the day, and the determination to do what is right because you were raised better than this, and the standards that your forefathers held, that your family held, like they mean something to you, and you want to live up to those ideals. You know, like they can drown each other out from time to time. We're definitely in one of those times right now, but I feel like America is equal parts Ford and Boyce, and I really like the dichotomy that they chose to have with those guys, particularly with the end where Ford essentially has been given the power to not die. And he's fighting against these fucking zombies in this horrific state. And he tells Boyce to blow this place up because their side shouldn't have it either. And he knew, like, this was too far. He's like, no, nobody should have this power. Blow this whole thing up. Don't let them go digging for this. So I feel like that's where the movie lands on, which I like.
So I want to jump into my thoughts here, because this is a very, I would argue, this is a very philosophical question here.
Yep.
So you said that America is parts Ford and Boyce, or I guess to extrapolate it a bit, let's see, Ford represents kind of the drive to do whatever it takes, and Boyce is the what would you call it? I guess the conscience, or the
conscience is a good word, I feel.
Yeah, okay. So the drive to do whatever it takes, and then the consciousness to or I guess the self-awareness to know what your limit should be. You say the whole country's got both of those. I think each individual has both of those. To get into a micro level here now. And
Okay.
For me personally, I think the question, because you said that the whole you said something about how the concept of, you know, living up to what your forefathers and your family wants and stuff, and how and what they would do with the choices that you make, everything. That's a good way to look at it. But I think the problem with that, though, is that there's a lot of people out there who, you know, they don't care about the past, they don't care about their family and whatnot. And I think the standard that I would hold myself to in this question is not so much that, but more to the fact of, at the end of the day, can I look at myself and think that I did the best I could with what I was given? Or to put it in a way where I guess this is the philosophy I kind of picked up from the last Airbender series. Did I do everything I could while still being true to myself? And for those who don't know, because I will reference Avatar a lot here, the last episode of that series, Aang's forced to confront the big boss of the series, the Fire Lord, and he's left with the question of, do I kill this, you know, bad guy like everyone else wants me to, or is there another way to do it? And sure enough, he finds another way around it. He gets to live up to the code that he made for himself, and doesn't have to, you know, bend his resolve or his morals to the rest of the world, and still gets to fulfill his duty. And I think that that's kind of what we're getting here, is we have a character who is willing to compromise everything to get the job done, versus basically Aang, more or less, or the character who is not willing to bend their morals to make it happen. Like, you see it throughout the film, with boys constantly going off mission to help innocent people or do whatever. It's kind of like Wonder Woman. I'm pulling a lot of references here, but it's kind of like Wonder Woman almost, because she was also jumping everywhere to save everybody, whereas Chris Pine's like, no, we have a job to do. We got to go fucking fight the Germans and shit. So this is a common element I've seen in a lot of war stuff now that I think about it. Jesus.
Definitely.
Yeah. But I definitely...
Ironic that Overlord and Wonder Woman happened during World War II.
Oh, that was World War One, wasn't it?
Oh, sorry, World War One. Sorry. Yeah. Ironic that both of them happened during a world war on the American side.
Yeah, against Germans. But no, I think war definitely is what brings it up, though, because I think that's the question everyone has to ask themselves when they enlist in the Army, because you and I, Ryan, are raised in the non-military background, and we both were taught, you can't kill people because that's bad, you can't shoot people, that's bad. But in the military, you're kind of asked to shoot people for the sake of your country and for the people you're serving. And I feel like a lot of people who go in the military question that decision, that choice that they're given every single time they have to do it. I mean, I'm sure they're trained to not question it, but at the same time, like, I'm putting myself in their shoes. I'm thinking to myself, could I do this? I don't think I could. I mean, if my life was in danger and it was me or him or me or them or whatever, maybe, but just to go out and just shoot people because I'm told to, it's like, I don't think I could ever willingly do that myself. It just doesn't seem like a right thing to do.
Well, I mean, the core of military service, and full disclaimer, I have never served, and I don't I don't really have, like, close people who serve, so if I'm talking out of my ass, I do apologize.
Same here.
But the way I see it, just from outside perspective, the crux of the ideal of military service is putting the concept of your country and everybody who lives in it above your moral, like that moral dissonance that you're having. So it's like yes, like as like one-on-one you may be feeling this, but are you willing to put this aside to do what's best for your country? Are you willing to trust the institutions that your country has set in place, that, like, you are following the best interests of your country? Like, there are people who are outside of this perspective that can sit there, look at the actions of the government and look at the actions of the military that controls that government and say, well, it seems apparent that some of the actions of the military are made at the express benefit of a couple of people who can benefit the most from it, and setting up shadow governments and puppets and things like that. But that's neither here nor there. The people who are at the bottom, the people who are on the ground level, they are simply told, do you wish to serve your country? And if you wish to serve your country, we need to go there. We need to go to this place. We need to do this mission, because that's what you've been trained to do. That, like, your government has invested time and training and effort in you to make you better equipped to serve your country. This is what your country is asking of you. Are you willing to do that? Are you willing to put aside your moral conundrum and do what's right for your country? That's how I see the ground level of military service really being taught. And when you're put in that kind of predicament, when you're put in that, when you're put in that position, the people who have actually made it past basic training and who have made it through all of the crazy shit, all the initiations, all of that, there are the guys who are, when faced with the hardest conditions in their lives and ask the question, do you wish to continue to serve your country? They are the people that said yes. And so you can put them in any situation and say, this is for your country, and they'll do it.
So yeah, I got full respect for the people who do that, because I know that that's a big sacrifice they're willing to make. For where I stand, I don't think I could do that, and it's not an anti-country thing. It's just a more, it's
a personal thing.
Yeah,
it's definitely it's a personal choice.
I have a set level of morals. I just can't let them go. I just couldn't. I feel like I wouldn't be able to live with myself the next day. It's like, oh man, I shot some dudes. And that's the thing, though. People go through PTSD and all sorts of other stuff post-war, post-events, and that stuff can haunt them and traumatize them, and they have to go through years of therapy, years of, like, of support groups and stuff like that. So it's not an easy thing, even if they do decide to do that. So
Yeah.
I respect it. I respect those who can make the sacrifice and do so, successful or not.
Yeah. I think it's just, and yes, with like 100% respect those who serve in the armed forces. I think it behooves us to look at the whole board while we're playing the game. You know what I mean? Like to look at the entire, like all of the ramifications from the actions that our country takes, rather than just being spoon-fed this mission was to protect American citizens. Like it definitely may as well have been. Like absolutely. But are there other things that could have been done in spite of this? Are there ancillary benefits for people who are already in power that stand to gain more power because of the actions that were taken? Like these are questions that we are afforded the luxury to ask by our armed service members, and I think it is our duty as citizens to ask those questions and to hold people accountable for that.
That question went a lot further than I thought it was going to go, and I'm very proud of that.
Yeah, we got super political on that. All right.
I'm very proud of that, actually. That's a good one.
That was really good. That was fun.
I'll wrap it up with the last one here. We'll just jump ahead to it. So, speaking of cover-ups and government questioning and whatnot, this fits in very, very well. Do you think there could be other labs like this one in the alternate reality of this World War II? And if so, do you want to see them? Do you think the Allied forces will ever find this lab? And if so, what do you think could happen there?
I kind of like that they took steps to make this as self-contained of a piece as possible, because like throughout the course of the movie, they make references to the fact that they found this substance in the ground on this particular French town, and that's why they based their research here, because it was happening here. And so the fact that this whole town was pretty much blown to shit, that D-Day happened, and this essentially sparked off the biggest victory in World War II that would lead to the end of the war. Like I don't think more would come from this particular universe. I don't necessarily need it to. There aren't like a whole bunch of questions that are left burning and unanswered for me personally. Like, I think this is a good standalone movie. Mm-hmm. It's fun. It's to the point. You have a grand time watching it. It makes you ask a couple of questions, and then it ends on itself, and it's good. Like, I don't think we need any more. Like this is one of those movies where I think Hollywood could learn its lesson and just stop. It was a well-told story. Let it rest. Let it end.
That's fair. I will say, I mostly agree, though I will say that I'd like to see more World War II era sci-fi.
Yeah, I would.
It's a good era, and there's a lot of like dark stuff you can do with it, and I'd be open to seeing more things with different characters, different people, different like imagery and shit. Like, really play with the idea, guys. Like, the door's open, and I think that it's probably not going to happen, just like I said, this movie didn't make bank, so I'm sure studios like, we're not really caring about that. Marvel's doing it now, so we're going to copy them right now. So that's what you're going to get for the time being, but if y'all want to see more of this, definitely make it known. Buy DVDs, stream this shit, just make it, studios know, hey, World War II era sci-fi, that's good shit. Let's bring more of that out.
Yeah, 100%. I love it. This is a very fun movie. I definitely had a ball watching it. I watched it with Allegra, and she liked it too.
Good stuff. Yeah, I watched it with Amanda, and I don't think she hated it either. I think we both had a pretty good time with it. So, with that, if you want to reach out to us in particular, we can't do anything about making movie studios play certain films. Trust me, I'd love to be able to do that. But you can talk to us about what kind of podcast you'll listen to. You can go to Tumblr, Twitter, or Facebook to reach out to us and let us know. You can also leave comments down below. Ratings and reviews help our show get more attention, and that also helps us get more comments. We'd love to hear from you guys on what you want to see, what you want to hear. And Ryan, if they want to email us directly to give us requests, what can they do?
They can reach out to us via email at choose Ford or Boyd dot voice maybe voice dot excuse me evacstation at gmail.com.
I want to see your. I also want to see you guys send your fanfics of your Ford voice /fics. Let's see that happen.
Hashtag voice. Let's make it work.
It's unintentional, but it's there. It's out there now. Ryan, we have to rank this film, bucket or fuck it. I know we're both kind of in the middle ground on this one, so I'm trying to figure out which way we're both leaning here.
Yeah, it's definitely in the middle, but I would still place it as a bucket. I didn't have any, like, huge, like, glaring problems with the movie. Like, it was just above average. It was fun. It was fun. It was a good time. I do not regret the time that I spent watching it. I enjoyed it, but there was nothing that made it stand out for me. But since there was something that I hated about it, honestly, I would definitely put it in the bucket still. It's one of the lighter bucket entries, but it's still still a bucket entry.
I'll agree. It's a bucket, a very low level bucket, but still a bucket. I'd say it's good. Check it out if you get a chance. If you don't check it out, or you're not missing out if you don't see it, but I would still recommend checking it out nonetheless because it's a good time. Ryan, next week is the final episode of this season. We will be covering Dawn of the Dead, a George Romero classic.
Yes, this was fun. This was a fun one for me.
Yep. I do have some clarifications when we get to that episode, but don't worry, we'll get to those in a little bit. But thank y'all for listening to this episode. So like I said, next week, Dawn of the Dead, and then after that, we will be taking this podcast to a galaxy far, far away. And I'm excited for that season a lot. I've been looking forward to it for quite a while.
Oh, yeah.
So thank you for listening, and we'll see you after the credits.
Bye.
Guess we'll table this for now. I'm glad to see you take constructive criticism well. Thank you for your time. I know we're all busy as hell. And we'll put this thing to bed when I bash your head open. All we wanna do is eat your brains. We're not unreasonable. I mean, no one's gonna eat your eyes. All we wanna do is eat your brains. We're at an impasse here. Maybe we should compromise. Open up the door.